Hey guys, Cryptid here, your humble internet drawer, and today, if you're watching this on the day of upload, is Easter Sunday. So if you celebrate, happy Easter, and if you don't, happy Sunday. And if you're American and it's not yet Sunday, then the best I can tell you is to perish. That's staying in. So today I have a speed draw for you that's actually kind of exciting because I realized just before I went to record the audio for this that this is like the first drawing that I've done that includes almost all of my characters in a scene that's canonically part of the plot of Gemini. Because okay, I've done drawings before that include most, if not all, of my characters, and they're up on my channel as speed draws and on my Instagram as like finished pictures. Like there's one where they're getting ice cream, and there's another one where they're in like a back alley and Lucy's got her arm stuck in a vending machine because of course she does. But those aren't like canonical events. What I'm drawing now is a scene that happens at the beginning of Act 3. If you're new to my channel, and honestly, even if you've seen some of my other videos, that might not make sense. But if you are new, hi, I'm Cryptid. You can call me Ren if you want. I draw, I animate, and I have original characters that I like to talk about at length. So if you're into that, why not click subscribe and hit like on the video if you're enjoying it so far. I also have lots of social media, they're linked in my description, and they'll be at the end of this video. Alright, now that I'm done plugging, I can continue talking about this artwork. So this is a speed draw that pretty much kicks off Act 3, which is the refuge seeking art. And it's actually kind of important because it's the first time that three distinct households that have formed kind of converge and become one party that is together for the rest of the plot, more or less. So those three households are Elijah and his little brother Felix. Elijah is on the foreground to the left, and Felix is the kid that's asleep. Then there's Leo, who is the tall ginger, and his sort of roommate, best friend, slash somewhat of a mother figure, Willow, who's the girl with pink hair. Also in their household is Alev, who's the dude that's death staring Elijah and sipping tea. He's kind of an oddball because up until this point, he's been contacting Leo exclusively through his dreams and his mind, and has only just recently come from the demon realm into the mortal realm, and has also himself become mortal. If that doesn't make sense to you, I highly recommend you go see one of my other videos. I believe it's called Talking About My Demon Dilf and His Depressed Son. A wonderful name, I know, but it sort of explains all of the demon nonsense and the relationship between Alev and Leo. And lastly, there's Lucy, who's in the foreground to the right. She's the guardian with wings. She's kind of her own separate party, but she interacts a lot both with Elijah and Felix, and also Leo and Willow, because Leo is like her best friend. So at the end of Act 2, they all sort of come to their own conclusion that they need to leave Gemini for various reasons. They all sort of lose their ties to Gemini, this country that they've all lived in for a long time, if not their entire lives. And I will explain that. But at this dinner table here, this scene takes place at a hostel on the outskirts of Libra, which is another country that Willow is from. And they're passing through Libra with the intent to go see Willow's family and eventually move on to Capricorn, which is in the north next to Scorpio, to seek refuge there. So there is an ongoing war between Gemini and Scorpio, who are the two main powers on the Atlantean Peninsula, which is the fictional continent on which this story takes place. Capricorn is in the north, and essentially it's the one country that produces things and trades with Scorpio, but at the same time it's not involved with the war whatsoever. And because Gemini typically avoids attacking trade hubs, with minor exceptions, and Scorpio is definitely not attacking Capricorn, they all collectively decide that Capricorn is the best place to seek refuge from the war and keep each other safe, until they can return to Gemini. Now let me just backtrack a bit and explain further on what I meant about everybody's ties to Gemini kind of being severed over the course of Act 2. So let me start off with Elijah and Felix. So Elijah had three major things that were keeping him in Gemini: his mother, who is sick, his work at the military, and Felix, and by proxy, Felix's adoptive father slash Elijah's uncle figure, Casey. Firstly, Elijah's mother, who has terminal cancer, essentially goes to Pisces to live with her sister, who is a doctor, without Elijah's knowledge, and when she gets there, she contacts him and is essentially like, hey, I've gone to Pisces to seek refuge because it's the safest place that she's actually able to go because she has family there and she's not well enough or financially stable enough to travel elsewhere, for example, Capricorn, to seek refuge. And so she travels there. What she doesn't tell Elijah is that it's essentially for hospice care because she is dying and doesn't expect to outlive the war, but she wants to give Elijah incentive to leave Gemini. Secondly, Elijah also quits the military. And this is a major thing for him, considering his entire life he's been set up to follow in his father, who was the general's, footsteps. Except he goes through this really traumatic event in which the Royal Army of Gemini base camp is attacked in an aerial raid, and he loses one of his best friends and secretly his longtime partner, Seven McMillan. And he is extremely traumatized by this. He already had signs of post-traumatic stress disorder from when he lost his arm in a similar thing happening a year prior. And that's just kind of the final straw for him, and he quits and he can't take it anymore because he doesn't believe that he's fit to protect anybody if he couldn't protect Seven. The final straw in the coffin is that the bakery at which Felix's father, Casey, lives and works is destroyed again in another aerial attack, which is pretty much the most frequent attack that Gemini is subjected to. Casey no longer has anywhere to live. He comes and stays at Elijah's place for a couple of nights, and he essentially tells him, I'm going to move for a period of time to Aries. I don't know how long, but I'm going to go live with my parents. I'm going to go hopefully get back on my feet, get some financial stability. Until then, I can't really take care of my son, who is Felix. And he's like, I want to continue leaving Felix in your care because you've done such a good job so far, but I want you to leave. Because he knows at this point of Elijah's mother's wishes for Elijah to leave and go elsewhere. So Casey just encourages that. And once Casey leaves for Aries, Felix no longer has anything tying him to Gemini. Elijah's just like, right, we're leaving, we're going tomorrow, we're getting on the train, I can pull some strings and get some tickets. Moving on now to Leo and Willow. Willow had intended for a while now to leave and go to Libra to go and see her family, who she left behind 7 years ago when she came to Gemini at the age of 18. She has 3 siblings who still live in Libra, along with her father, who is sometimes there and is often out of town. But she raised her siblings and hasn't seen them in a long, long time, and since the war is getting worse and worse, she just wants to leave and she wants to go see them. Now, she intended to bring Leo along, but as Leo continues to deteriorate, as he goes through the process of becoming the Unimotus, or the Demon King, again, I highly recommend you go see my video about Alev and Leo if you don't understand what I'm talking about. But as he gets worse and worse, Willow kind of decides that he's a danger to himself and to others, and the night before they're about to go get on the train, all hell breaks loose. And I'm not going to go into super detail here because it's a long event to talk about, but Willow tries to drag Leo off to hospital and leave him there while she goes to Libra. Leo, of course, fights back, and that is the night that the timer that has been ticking down since Leo was chosen to become the Unimotus finally completes, and the transfer of power is complete, and Leo becomes in the position to be the Unimotus once Alev dies, and Alev comes from the demon realm into the human realm and becomes mortal. And that finally convinces Willow that Leo isn't insane and confirms everything that he's been trying to tell her. So Willow kind of has a complete 180 in terms of her worldview that night. And the following morning she sees that he's improved a lot because he's finally gotten the first night of sleep in months since he first met Alev. And she's like, okay, right, guess you can still come with me. And so they go to the train station where they also meet Elijah and Felix, and they decide to go together on this train. Lucy, meanwhile, is also there, and she, being a guardian, isn't allowed to get a ticket out because as a guardian, she is assigned to Gemini as a country to be the guardian of that place and protect it, but since nobody respects that anyway and everybody hates her and wants to kill her, she doesn't really care. So she's just like, right, you guys get on the train, I'm going to get on the roof, because she can. Alev, meanwhile, also wants to join them because he's now part of sort of Leo and Willow's household. But he obviously hasn't got a ticket, nor has he got a passport. And so he says, I will meet you there because he's been to the Libra train station before, so he's able to teleport there by memory. That leads to the event that happens on the train, which is everybody gets on the train, and once it starts moving, Lucy comes inside because she pretty much just has to stay on the roof until it leaves the station. And then as night begins to fall outside, it's sort of golden hour, the sun's going down, and every elf on the train's ears perk up, and everybody tenses. And they realize that they can hear over the horizon jets approaching. And as they go overhead, they can hear the sound of falling bombs. And suddenly, there's just explosions and chaos. So, bombs drop near the tracks, on the tracks. The train pretty much gets crushed in certain places, flies off the tracks, derails. And it's just a manic scramble to grab anybody that you can protect. So, Leo, being a demon, covers his back and arms in Pherometus and grabs Willow. Lucy grabs for Felix, who's the nearest person to her. He's small, and she wraps him in her arms. And Elijah, meanwhile, is kind of left without protection, smacks his head on the side of the train, and falls unconscious. Hours later, he wakes up, and he's in a field surrounded by other people, some conscious, some unconscious, some are dead and in body bags. He looks up and he can see the train in the near distance, and the carriages are all sort of crumpled and mangled and fallen off the tracks. And further in the distance, he can see the engine of the train, and it's on fire and essentially disintegrating. Now, around him, there are a huge group of guardians, just all working together to look after the people who were on the train, look after the dead, and make sure that the burning engine doesn't explode and hurt anyone. And this is a guardian brigade. So this is a concept in Gemini that is sort of introduced here. And guardian brigades are sort of like Red Cross groups, essentially. They are makeshift EMTs, firefighters, they're volunteers that essentially work together for any kind of, whether it's war-related or other incidents, and just looking after all of the wounded and trying to minimize damage. So that's what they do. One of them comes up to Elijah, looks at him, addresses him, and is essentially like, right, you have a minor concussion, but you're pretty much alright, you're good to go. Elijah realizes he doesn't have his prosthetic arm because it's been removed and confiscated as a weapon, so he has to go and collect that from another guardian. And while he's there, he finds Lucy, who, while she was waiting for Elijah to regain consciousness, had gone over to briefly join the Guardian Brigade to help them, because she is a guardian. Once the entire team reunites, everybody's okay, pretty much except for Elijah, because everybody else was protected either by their powers or by somebody who has powers. Now everybody's standing there, and they're like, what do we do? Where do we go? Everybody's standing around sort of like not really sure what the next point of action is, because they're obviously not going to get to the Libra train station tonight. And so Lucy chimes in and she's like, hey, I was talking to the Guardians. There's a Guardian run in nearby that's been informed of the incident, and they're expecting a large amount of people to come through tonight seeking a place to stay. So we should probably head there now before anyone else gets there. So that's what they do. They all pack up and they walk to this inn. It's about 13 kilometers, which is, you know, a very far walk, but they eventually get there in the early hours of the morning. They check in and they sit down around the table where the inn runners begin to bring them food. And that is where Alev rejoins the party. He walks in and he's like, oh my goodness, I am so happy to see you all. I was so worried, because he had been staying at the Libra train station for hours expecting this group to come through, because he teleported there, he was there instantly. And when they didn't, he eventually found out about the accident with the train car and the bombing, and went around finding out the whereabouts of his group. And that is where this drawing takes place. It's everybody sitting down around a table and finally having their first meal together as basically the party that's going to be together for the rest of the story of Gemini. And as you can probably tell from this drawing, there's an immediate animosity between Alev and Elijah. Elijah notices that Alev is staring at him the entire night with bright red eyes, and it eventually leads to Elijah storming out. But that's something that I'll discuss in another video. Meanwhile, Felix is like asleep, because while he's the youngest and the weakest of the group, he also has extremely frail legs because of his atrophied muscles from napalm burns he received when he was 6 years old. So he kind of has that's a recurring issue throughout the story, because from this point on, there's a lot more walking and physical activity involved. So Felix's weakness is something that comes up again and again, and so is the aggression between Elijah and Alev. But that has been me talking for long enough about this, and I'm going to leave the story there. As far as this drawing goes, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm really happy with it. I love the way that the colors look, and I love the way the food looks. Fun fact about me, I actually spent a lot of my life in China, so the food is drawn from my own experience, and it just looks so nice. Like, I never draw food, so this was sort of a new thing for me to do, and I actually think that it turned out pretty good, and it was really fun to do. And it all just feels so cozy and warm and nostalgic and kind of, you know, family-like, aside from the, you know, glowing red eyes directed towards Elijah. But yeah, I think this turned out pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'm gonna leave the video here. If you enjoyed it and want to stick around, why not subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video? If you'd like to catch me on any of my other socials, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, where you can see my animations and my finished drawings. Alright, that's all for this video. I love you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!